Arch the ball.
Yeah. What's up? What's happening? Good to see everybody. Happy Friday to you. Good to see you. Good to be here. Thank you. Welcome to the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, and we are going to talk a little bit tonight about the Idaho 4 case kind of staring down the barrel of probably one of the biggest trials in the last 10 to 15 years. I think since the OJ trial. Some people disagree with me. That's fine. Most people do most of the time. And some of you might disagree with me tonight, and some of you might agree with me. But I want to reiterate this from the bottom of my heart. You can have your opinion, but don't insult anybody in the chat. Don't call anybody stupid just because they disagree with you. And for the love of God, without any merit, please, no blaming victims. There's just not a lot of merit there. And I know that it happens a lot in these kinds of cases. So, until facts are facts, let's just keep it, we'll keep it simple and, discuss the case. It's, I just don't want people fighting. That's it. That's the only thing. It's just not my thing. But have your opinion. There's a lot of people that think he's innocent. There's a lot of people that think there's not enough evidence. There's a lot of people that think, they're undecided. I don't know. I don't know either. I have an opinion, and I'll share some of that opinion with you tonight. But as we go forward here, I think that the defense strategy, and I'm pretty sure that when McDonough and I talked about this case just the other day, that I thought that this was going to be the strategy. I thought the strategy was going to be planted. And Ann Taylor, never ceases to amaze me. She's an incredible defense attorney, and she'll get away with whatever she can. That is allowed. That's what she does. This is what that's her living, right? It's something that, even if you don't like it, it's her job. And it's really up to the judge to be the gatekeeper of this kind of thing. But I don't think that, they have much of a choice. I really don't feel like they have a lot of choice here. How are you going to explain? They're not even going to dispute they're not even going to dispute that the DNA evidence found on the knife sheath is his. How can they? That should tell you a little something, that they're not even going to be like, well, it's not, that's not his, or because it seems like that the science is probably too strong. The science seems too strong to believe that it's not his DNA on that knife sheath button. And so what they're going to do is they're going to have to somehow, some way, explain this. Now, I don't know. That's the part that remains to be seen. Like, how are they going to show that he was set up? But let me bring this up for you. We'll talk about this a little bit. It's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, I figured that that's what was going to happen, but oh crap. Did the wrong thing. Share the screen. I hate. Mod upgraded your member. Thank you, Mod. I appreciate that so much. It's good to see you as well. And fly safe. Cool Lady became a YouTube member. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you guys. Jamie says right here, Brian did it, in my opinion. He wanted to see if he could commit the perfect crime. Yeah. I don't know where they'd be without the knife sheath, to be honest with you. Probably not very far. Hey, Josh and chat, big fan here. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. All right. So let's get into this here. All right. So well, that's a good point. We're going to get to that. I don't disagree with you. All right. Kohberger's defense will argue evidence was planted in Idaho student murder case, prosecutors say. I mean, if you're the prosecutors, you're loving life right now when it comes to that case, because these are really hard. This is going to be it's an uphill battle. I really believe it is. All right. So attorneys for Brian Kohberger plan to argue that the trial that the knife sheath recovered from the crime scene could have been planted by the real killer of the 4 University Idaho students, according to prosecutors in new court filings. Kohberger is a key, and they, that they've been holding this back, by the way. They've been holding this back because it was probably going to get pretty ripped apart. Let's see here. Kohberger is accused of fatally stabbing Madison Mogan, Kaylee Consalves, Xander Canolo, and Ethan Chapin at an off-campus home in Moscow, November 2022. Not guilty pleas have been entered on his behalf, and his trial is set to begin in August. He faces the death penalty if convicted, and I think that what is it? Is it now the firing squad? Is that what he's facing? I read today somewhere that they said that that Idaho's now, like, is it Idaho that now prefers the firing squad? Is that what it is? That's what I thought. That's what I heard. I mean, I don't know, or read or something. So in the state filing released Tuesday afternoon, prosecutors summarized a defense filing that appears to be sealed. Instead of challenging the conclusion that the DNA on the knife sheath belonged to the defendant. The defense expert disclosures reveal that the defense plans to argue the DNA on the knife sheath does not prove defendant was at the crime scene, and the knife sheath itself could have been planted by the real perpetrator. Tough sell, I think. The prosecutor's filing quotes a defense expert's disclosure that prosecutors say it reveals Koberger's lawyers intend to call expert in forensic biology and DNA who will testify that there's a good support that Mr. Koberger's DNA was found on the item, a swab from the knife sheath. No further information from the defense expert disclosure is provided in the prosecution's filing dated March 10th, and any response from Koberger's lawyers has not been made public. The DNA recovered on the button of the knife sheath, which ultimately led investigators to Koberger, is a key piece of evidence in the case and has been the subject of multiple motions ahead of trial. The Idaho State Lab first located a single source of male DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath found on the bed next to Mogen's body at the crime scene. Authorities used investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, a field forensic science combing DNA analysis with genealogical research to connect that sample to Koberger's family, prosecutors have said. Investigators then went to Koberger's family's home in Pennsylvania and pulled items from the family trash to test against the knife sheath, which is completely legal. I'm sure that most of you know that, but I've seen people say that it's illegal. It's just not. And once it's like trash, it's public. It's like it's on the sidewalk in a trash can. You can do whatever you want with it. Feel free to dig through the trash, folks. It's called dumpster diving. People do it every day. Not against the law. All right. So, a DNA profile obtained from the trash from the family's from the trash was identified as not being excluded as the biological father suspect of suspect knife profile, according to court documents. That was read just a little bit weird. Let me do it again here. A DNA profile obtained from the trash was identified as, that's why, as, quote, as not being excluded as the biological father of the suspect's knife profile, according to court documents. A cheek swab from Koberger confirmed he was a statistical match to the knife sheath sample, court documents show. Koberger's defense team has questioned the use, legality, and accuracy of the DNA testing done in each step of the process, and it doesn't seem to be working out for him. So now that's what's sort of happening, is that they question each step, and it seems that as though it's pretty good evidence. The new glimpse into Koberger's potential defense strategy comes in a filing from Idaho State prosecutors saying they are willing to agree with the defense position to exclude trial evidence related to IgG. Prosecutors say the only plan to refer to IgG material as genetic tip without revealing the source of the substance of the tip. The filings say they'll ask an investigator on the stands to testify that law enforcement received a tip, and based on that information and other evidence, authorities eventually identified Koberger as the suspect, and which makes sense because, well, he did have an Elantra. Shocker. He was around the crime scene turned his phone off, and all that kind of thing. But one of the big things that I want to listen to tonight is the 911 call. The full 911 call has been released. I'm going to bring it up here, and this is from Plunder's page. Somehow, everybody got it before the mainstream media. It's pretty amazing. But hold on one second here. And Denise, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. I appreciate it very much. All right, so let me. Okay, so that probably sucked. Caroline says Sheath under the comforter, body on top of the comforter. Yet police say they saw empty Sheath from the doorway. None of that makes any sense. Well, they the fact of the matter, it was there. What's happening? Is there a troll already? No. Nobody would be foolish enough. Would they? Nobody would do that. All right, so we're gonna play this, and I'll react to it. I have not heard this. I don't know how many of you have heard it, but I think so. Let me see. Actually, let me find. I think Kelsey put it in there, and then what I'll do is let me find it, and I'll see if I can pin it for you. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Kelsey. Pin message. Okay, so it's at the top there. All right, here we go. I have not heard this. I'm sure some of you have. I saw it come up. I was like, I'll react to it just in real time, I guess. All right, let's listen.
AM 42 seconds, November 13, 2022. 911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What? 373180.
I assume that's redacted.
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi,
and are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, we gotta go check. But we have to. Did you pass out? Just not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20 here. 20.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
Bethany, alright. Then I need you to keep talking to them, okay? I can't talk to them, I need you to talk to them.
Okay. Hello?
Okay. I have already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again? There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have one. I think yes. Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, we have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
11:59 a.m. 49 seconds, November 13, 2022.
Okay, so initial reaction to that is obviously you can tell that they're terrified, that they don't know what to do. I see people, I see people in the chat saying they didn't see any blood. How did they not see any blood? I don't know. I mean, if you weren't there, then I mean, how would you know? How would you know that they did or they didn't? Or I mean, they didn't just go, "Oh, there's blood everywhere." Yeah, I understand that. I do find it. I do find it strange that that's kind of what we're focusing in on, because I know that people like to say, well, and that's been something. Nobody saw any blood. Nobody said anything about blood. Okay, all right, fine. But we weren't there, so it's hard to tell what they saw, what they were describing, and yeah, they described her being passed out from maybe drinking. They just, I don't know. I just seems like they didn't know, and that they were in shock. I mean, yeah, exactly. Your senses. I wouldn't imagine that your senses would be all there when making that phone call, and it's kind of odd that, but I get it. I mean, well, you'd still think you'd hear one of them yell blood. I don't think that. You might think that. I don't think that. I mean, I don't know what they were going to say. I have no clue what they would say. I've never seen anything quite like that ever. So I don't know what I would say. I don't know how long they've been, dead. I don't know where the blood was. Maybe all this stuff will come out at trial, and then we'll hear more of that. But if that's what you think, that that's what's going to get Brian Koberger off, then good luck. Let me see here. What's up, Daniel? How are you, buddy? The victims were behind a closed door when he got there. That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, look, if your friend's laying there dead, it would be hard to sit there and stare at it, to be honest with you. You know. Yeah, I thought that a little bit too. I mean, I get it. I mean, it's their job, but they're just. It seems like they're trying to extract as much information out of everybody as possible. And yeah, hold on a second. Okay, so Regina says, no, we were not there, but common sense comes into play. No, it doesn't actually. Your common sense leaves you a lot of the time, correct? When you're in a panicked situation. I mean, I'm not gonna. What is it, Regina? What is it? What is the end? What is the end goal here by saying that nobody mentioned blood? I truly, and I'm not fighting with you. I'm not picking on you. I'm just curious. What is it that you're trying to say? What are the people that say there was no blood mentioned insinuating? I'm curious about that because I don't really know. You ever been to a quadruple homicide? You ever been to a quadruple homicide? I haven't. I surely haven't. But I am curious. What is that? What is it that you're trying to insinuate? Are you trying to insinuate that it was some setup, some inside job, that the girls were in on it, or that the victims that were there were in on it? I mean, you listen to this 911 call. It seems, I don't get what the point is. And please spare no expense by telling me, because I'm curious. I keep hearing this. Well, there was no blood. Okay. So what? Insinuate more. I don't get it. I agree with you. They did not say that there was any blood in the 911 call. It hadn't been mentioned. Doesn't mean there wasn't any. What's the point of that? Because as far as I am concerned, there is no point. Who, me? I'm not mad. I'm just asking because I don't get it. That's like one of the things that have been sort of tossed around. That's what I don't understand. And I know that there's a lot of people that say, well, they didn't mention the blood. Okay. All right. I get it. I understand what you're saying, but tell me what it is that you think that proves in the defense of Koberger, or insinuating that those in the house had a hand in this. I agree. I don't think it does. The call isn't the issue. The issue is the law may now use the fact it was released before, but I'm not, that's not up to us. I mean, that's not up to me. That's not up to you. I get what you're saying. You don't like it released, whatever. I get it, but these things happen. Bernie, from my view, we know the kids were killed horribly. We presume blood spatter, etc. Kids call 911 and don't see or mention blood. It's just odd. I don't do conspiracies. Odd or not? What does that matter? Is what I'm saying. Okay, is it odd? I don't know. I don't think so, but I've had the call for a few days, and you can hear Hunter say, Xana Eaton, it's me. You don't say that to people. You can see, maybe they weren't just like, peeking through the door. If they didn't see blood, did they actually see a man? I don't know. Yeah, they're certainly not gonna take away the 911 call. It's just not gonna happen. Let's listen one more time here. I get it. You don't have to remind me. They don't say anything about the blood. I get it. But I still, for the life of me, if there's somebody out there that can explain to me what that matters, I would love to hear it.
11:55 a.m. 42 seconds, November 13, 2022.
911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
Something happened in our house. We don't know what. All right.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
Like it's not like in the movies, you know, where everybody goes, oh, there's blood everywhere. You know, I mean,
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the light, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What? 3731.
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi, this is
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, we gotta go check. But we have to. Did you pass out? She's passed out. What's wrong? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment.
so if you listen back here when she says, we have to, she does not want to go check. They don't even want to get close to this. Like, we have to. She's basically saying, no, I don't want to.
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, we gotta go check. But we have to.
But we have to.
Did you pass out?
So you remember that they start this call out by saying something happened, but we don't know what.
She's not waking up.
And oh, awesome. Let me see here. Let me throw you up here, buddy. Daniel.
How's it going?
We got a drunk turkey in the house. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. Doing a lot better. How about yourself?
Good. How's that arm? Is it getting better?
It's getting better. It's getting better. It's almost closed. Mobility is probably the only thing that I'm working on now. Is trying to get it up there.
You'll get 100% back.
We'll see. I have an EMG test on the 2nd, and they're going to test my nerves, see how much damage I got. And at that point, we'll determine how long the recovery process will continue. Obviously, so it's probably going to be a bit.
Yeah. And everybody welcome Daniel from Drunk Turkey Show. He covers this case very well and has for a long time. So you've listened to this, obviously. You said you've had it for a couple of days, correct?
That's correct.
And I mean, what do you take from it?
I take a lot out of it. So first and foremost, in the beginning, as you started and you mentioned it yourself, that they say, something happened, but we don't know what. They don't know what happened. There's no idea. They know something happened based on other documents that have been released. They talk to each other. We find out in other documents that Dylan had some lucid dreams about being kidnapped and assaulted, SA, and that she had been having those since early on in early high school. Documented these things. These were lucid dreams. And so the night of the incident, she didn't know what happened. And the text messages, I'm not sure if you've gone over them or not, but in the text messages, there's one where Bethany says, well, Xana's wearing all black. Now, it's a hearsay document, and they're talking about what Bethany is saying because, well, she didn't witness the intruder. The documents specify that specifically, that that Dylan's the only person that's witnessed the intruder. And so with Bethany, she says she's wearing all black. So why would she say that? Well, we know from the PCA that Dylan says she saw somebody wearing all black. So I would assume that she said she saw someone wearing all black. And Bethany, and this is around 4:21 in the morning. This is after Brian Koberger has left the house. She says, well, Xana's wearing all black, trying to comfort Dylan's thoughts. So what that tells me is that Bethany didn't see anything. She probably woke up due to the amount of calls and text messages that Dylan was sending her. And at that point, there's a little bit of a panic beginning to happen because they begin to text and call the victims who had passed away, and nobody's responding, obviously. And so she then texts us something to the effect like, or Bethany says to come down, and then Dylan says, it reads out screwed, but what it should say is scared. It's SC capital R WD or something like that. But the capital R is the giveaway. The reason it's capitalized is because she meant to hit the A. She didn't hit the A. She hit the capital button. She hit the R, and instead of the E, she hit the W. So a lot of people think that she said screwed. In reality, it's I'm scared. It makes more sense with the text line in which they're talking about. Bethany says, I know, but at least you won't be alone. And so she then runs downstairs. So because of all those things that are happening, they know something happened. They don't know what happened. And when you listen to the audio at about 1:52, somewhere around there, in the background, you're going to hear Hunter say something to the effect like, Xana, Ethan, it's me. Now, you're not going to say that to somebody you can visually see, even if they're unconscious or something. You're going to be like, hey, wake up, something to that nature. To do that, that's more of an announcement. Like, hey, it's me. I'm about to enter either the bedroom, the bathroom, something. And when I interviewed Christy, this is a while ago, she had mentioned to me, and Christy being Kaylee's mom, she had mentioned to me that during the celebration of life, Hunter Johnson had told her husband that he had gotten called over to the house. He went there and they couldn't get through the door. Now she says that he said the door was blocked. Now, these are two emotional men. This is a celebration of life. Obviously, there's some emotions going on. Blocked, locked. We know Xana's dad had just recently fixed the locks on the door. Who knows if they automatically locked if the door shut? But he said that he had some trouble getting into the door. And then once he was able to get into the door, he saw the scene. He said, get out, get out. And everybody got out. Now, if you listen to the tape at about 1 minute and 51 seconds, you're going to hear him say, Xana, Ethan, it's me. And then you'll hear the dispatcher speak a little bit. And during that moment, you're going to hear a loud screech. What I think is that door that's opening. And then you hear him say, Xana. And then you hear him say, get out, get out, get out. And they run out.
Yeah.
And so what's important about this is key information also that says that the scene and the bodies were discovered at that moment, not at 10:30, not at 8:30, not with a bunch of different kids. It was 4 kids. It was the next door neighbors and Ethan's best friend and Emily, who was really good friends with the female victims in that house. And so it kind of disproves a lot of rumors and conspiracies, in my opinion.
All right, and so let's go ahead and go over this really quick, and get your opinion on this as well. I am curious also to what you think about the defense strategy, and I'll ask you about that here in a second.
Yes, sir.
11:55 a.m. 42.
By the way, sub up to Drunk Turkey, and we'll run your channel in the chat. And thanks for coming up. And people were asking what happened to you. He was attacked by his own dog. It was a terrible thing. I saw the wound. It was just absolutely insane. So glad you're here, because that could have ended much different.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
2nd, November 13, 2022.
911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
All right. So, I mean, right off the bat, right? I mean, something happened in our house. We don't know what. I mean, it's kind of an ominous thing. It seems like they don't want to know, honestly. I mean, when something terrible like that happens, it's hard to kind of face it. Have you ever like heard a thump or something, and you thought maybe somebody fell and hurt themselves, or this is just like a very mild thing, but like even like my grandmother, like if I hear a thump, because she's fallen before in her room and stuff, and you don't know what you're opening up the door to. You're like, what's going on here? It's kind of scary.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's
So that was the neighbor that came over?
Right. Yeah. So that's the neighbor. That's Emily. So the first one that was speaking was Bethany. Emily comes over. As you can tell in her voice, she doesn't sound like terrified. She has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, she doesn't.
She's probably thinking that Bethany's overreacting right now. That's kind of the tone that she sets off.
That's what I would think.
Somebody passed out. She was drunk last night. They were all drinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they probably hear him at all hours of the night.
Exactly. And so that, her tone and the way she's talking in that point, and then you can kind of tone a little bit that her voice is going to turn a little bit more serious. And then right after that, you're going to hear somebody say, hi. If you listen to it a few times, it says, hi, I'm Dylan. And Dylan will come on, and the dispatcher kind of gets onto her.
Yeah, the dispatch. I mean, that's their job, and that's what
it is.
I know people are like, they sound harsh. She has no idea what's going on. She just knows there's a bunch of chaos. She has no clue at all. She's just trying to get people to give her the information. And Lisa Murphy says, I don't think many of us have ever been in a traumatic event trying to function. I don't think too many of us, not like that. I can guarantee you. I mean, this quadruple homicides aren't exactly your everyday run of the mill murder scene. Okay. Not like this, not with a knife attack. Now, if you're talking, gun and, that, I mean, those things happen, but a knife attack where somebody's going through a house and for lack of a better term, slaughtering people. I mean, that's exactly what happened to these poor kids and young adults.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, it's a terrible thing.
the number that you're calling from?
What? 373180.
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi, this is
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
No, this is
Can I
John.
just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, you gotta go check.
I mean, they have. I'm sure that they have never made a phone call like this. And once again, look, I'm sure that there was blood. That's not. I don't know if anybody's going to dispute that, and I'm sure towards trial we'll know a lot more.
The crime scene was described as being very secluded, not secluded, but like it was sectioned off. Like for
Yeah, it was
instance,
behind doors. It wasn't like the house was painted in blood.
correct.
But each room, I'm sure, was horrific.
Exactly. It was. I think I had Howard Bloom on the channel, and he had spoke to a couple of law enforcement agents who had seen the crime scene, and he had mentioned that the scenes themselves, like it was pretty crazy how there wasn't like a blood trail or any of those type of things in between the scenes. It was primarily everything happened in those two bedrooms, and everything stayed in those two bedrooms. There wasn't blood everywhere, and if the doors are closed, or at least it doesn't sound like they ever went up to the third floor. It sounds like they only made it up to the second floor. You can hear at the end, you know, once Hunter says, "Get out, get out, get out," you can hear him running down the stairs. It's only one flight of stairs. It's not two. So obviously they were, only on the second floor, not on the third. And, they ran out to speak to police officers as they were pulling up. But, yeah, that was, like I said, well, you'll hear it right now. It's a loud screeching noise.
Yeah.
And that noise is, in my opinion, when they're getting the door open.
But we have to.
By the way, I find that part extremely fascinating because she says you need to go look.
Yeah.
And she says, and I don't know, you can't really hear what the other person says, but she goes, but we have to. She doesn't want to either. Nobody wants to do this.
Mm-mm.
By the way, Dan, also, if they were in their bed, and I hate to be like technical about this and be, gross and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, a lot of that blood overnight could have seeped into the bed, into the sheets, into the comforter. Who knows? I mean, there's just so much we don't know about that.
Mm-hmm. You're right there. You hear that? You want to rewind that a little bit? You can hear Santa, Ethan.
Yeah, they're yelling for him.
Yeah, they can't see him.
They don't even know if they're dead.
Exactly. That's when they're noticing him, and then here you can hear the dispatcher say something, and then in the middle of their words,
yeah,
boom.
What's wrong? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you.
That was a noise.
Okay.
And she says there, poor Kaylee.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are thinking maybe perhaps she went up to the third floor. In her interviews, she mentioned multiple times that she thought it was Kaylee who ran downstairs. And if she thought Kaylee ran downstairs with Murphy, that's probably, and she's the one who said someone's here. That's probably why she's thinking that the first person that they're seeing is Kaylee. But that's what I think. He says, get out, get out. You can hear him run down the stairs. It's only one flight of stairs. To get up to the second floor, or the third floor, I apologize. I believe you have to go up half a flight, turn, and then go back up another half a flight of stairs. It doesn't sound like that's what's happening in those few steps. It sounds like a handful of steps and then they're out the door, which that first floor staircase is right up against the front entrance of the house.
Mm. And so you think that they haven't went in the room? Is that what you're saying?
No, this is the moment they discover what happened.
Yeah, because they were saying, well, she didn't, or they're not waking up. They're not waking up.
And if Christy's correct that what they heard was that Ethan was blocking the door, it could be that the only thing they could see was somebody on the ground pressed up against the door, and not so much any blood or any of those type of things from underneath the door.
Yeah, and then you hear them kind of call out to them.
Yeah, they're calling out, and then you hear the loud noise. And then it's like, it sounds like some realization is going on, because you start hearing that heavy breathing happening right after that loud noise happens.
Yeah, let's back it up a little bit.
Yeah. Like right after that loud noise happens, you start hearing the heavy breathing.
Mm. You hear the "oh my god"? Did you hear "oh my god"? Right. I mean, this is like,
this is happening right there.
She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
who was yelling "get out"?
That's Hunter. That's Ethan's best friend. He's the one that found
And he was called over.
Right. He and Emily at the time were in a relationship, and Emily lived at 1112 King Road. That's where the light camera is. So that's how they were able to get there so quickly and together. It was because he had spent the night there, literally the next door over, where the audio is from 50 feet away. That's who these folks are. They're from that house.
Yeah.
And she's been to that house. I don't know if you guys, so Hunter is the guy who, you've seen the body cam footage. There's two different ones of some loud noise complaints, one at night, one during the day. All right. The one at night, remember they couldn't find somebody, and then these two guys showed up and they were talking, saying that that the owners weren't there or whatever the case may be. Well, he was a taller guy. He also appears in the second one, the one during the day where Kaylee's outside talking to the officer by the back sliding glass door. There's a tall gentleman with zip ties on each of his wrists.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because I was wondering I figured they were just doing college things.
Yeah. No, they were. That's a college game. It's a college drinking game that has to do with the zip ties. And well, that's Hunter Johnson. And I believe that if you remember the first time on the night body cam footage, there's like a girl that opens the door briefly and then closes it. Some people say it's Bethany, some say it's Emily. They kind of look alike. But apparently that night was Emily's birthday party. I could be wrong, but I believe it was that night. And that's where that loud noise complaint came from. And so there was a lot of people that went back and forth between the houses, but they got called. Hunter just happens to be like Ethan's best friend. If you go and listen or watch the celebration of life that happened just a couple weeks after the murders, he's there talking, and Hunter's head is just straight down. I mean, you can tell that young man saw something horrific. And, this is that moment.
And is Dylan, is that the one that's hyperventilating on the phone?
Initially, no, that was Bethany. That was hyperventilate. Well, no, with the breathing part at the
He
end,
says right
yes,
here, yeah.
yeah. That was Dylan. I believe that was Dylan because she's the one that told Bethany we need to go in. Come on, and Bethany was the one saying no, I don't want to. Basically,
I'm not going, dude. I mean,
yeah.
By the way, I get that. All these responses are so natural to me. I understand. I understand the reactions. You know, like from just taking a step back, going, yeah, I would feel that way too. Yeah, I mean, I could see how they would do something. I mean, you have people passing out. You have people hyperventilating. It's a dramatic, chaotic scene. And I think that a lot of people think that it should be handled. Look, this isn't being handled by, people that in their 40s and 50s that are they're not ambulance, ambulance workers or anything like that. These are just basically teenagers going into their young adulthood. I mean, there's no way to respond to this. I just don't, I don't think that people, I think most people understand, but I mean, do you get a lot of people that tell you like you're stupid, like for the way they cover this case?
Yeah, and then they'll tell me
Yeah.
something ridiculous like, "Oh, his phone could have been off because of this," and I'm like, "What about all the other stuff?" I mean, when it comes to people that argue with me, I call them pro burgers.
Yeah.
When when it comes to the pro burgers, I always tell them their arguments are always either the first thing I said or the last thing, but it's never everything. Their means of him being innocent has to deal with like it's like following an equation wrong. It's like if I were to say 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5 is 30, and one of these pro burgers yell at me and say, no, it's not because 10 plus 5 is 15. Well, no, duh, you're right, but it's not all the parts of the equation. It's the
Right.
same thing here. They look at one part and say, oh, well, his DNA could have gotten there in a number of ways. So I was like, well, all right, well, I mean, how do you factor that, whatever aspect you believe about how his DNA would have gotten there, with the vehicle that matches his phone being off during that super odd specific time, during a very cold time in a northern state, under freezing conditions and overcast weather. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can kind of break it down. And now the defense is apparently their claim to fame right now is that the real perpetrator, there's a real killer out there that framed him, not the police. So it's not the police that framed him. So everybody that's thinking it's the police, that's not what they're saying. It's that there's a real killer out there that committed this crime that looks like Koberger, has a vehicle that matches his, knew Koberger was going to be out and about that night, knew the exact moment that his phone was going to be off. And although he was hindered by something, because he drove around 3 different times before he got there, and 35 minutes, after the first initial time that he drove past the location, regardless of that, he still somehow managed to squeak that right in while Brian Koberger's phone was off. And by golly, he also had Brian Koberger's DNA on him. I mean, you can't get any.
So, well, basically, what I think you're saying is that you think Koberger's the guy.
Well, not only that, the other thing that they said too was just because he purchased an item on Amazon with his credit card and it was delivered to his house, that doesn't mean that he took possession of it. Which, what did they search on Amazon for? It was a K-bar knife.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's obvious that that's what was bought and delivered. But then I get people telling me that, well, maybe they ordered it well, it went to his house.
Mhm.
And the defense does not want that stuff in evidence. Why? Well, because it's damning. It's horribly damning circumstantial evidence. And and I was going to ask you about that, the new defense. Well, the defense that I always thought was coming, but let me let's finish this up real quick.
And how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20 here.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
Bethany, are Then I need you to keep talking to them, okay? I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them.
Hello?
Okay. I've already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again? There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have one. I can see it. Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, we have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
11:59 a.m. 49 seconds, November 13, 2022.
All right. And so, there it is. Now let's, if you have time here, like to talk a little bit about the defense. I was talking about it at the beginning, and are you surprised that this is going to be their go-to? I mean, that this is planted. I thought that they would probably go with something like, let's see, police corruption, but that's a tall task in itself. But that was initially what a lot of people were talking about. They were talking about the reputation of some of the officers involved.
No, that was all like, what is it called? Boilerplate, boilerpoint. I don't know what it's called. Basically, when lawyers put in a bunch of words just to kind of cover everything in particular, but the basis behind it was just so that they didn't prejudice Brian Koberger, which is why they didn't release a bunch of information. They had it sealed. Yeah. Because, like, for instance, this 911 call. What does the 911 call do? How does that prove Brian Koberger did anything? Right? It's not anything that says Brian Koberger committed this crime outside of there was a man at 4 a.m. Right? Which also disproves anybody saying that Dylan came up with a different story or whatever the case may have been. Guy at 4 a.m. started immediately. That was her story since the time she called dispatch. In the end, I if their defense is this, that there's a real killer out there that planted this, and they're looking at autism defenses, it's because their case is weak. I mean, it's all the ends and buts about it. I mean, if you're telling me that somebody had to frame you, then it's not going to work. And I think they went from law enforcement because as being the perpetrator of a frame job, because at one point during one of the hearings, the judge mentioned something about, do you think that they tampered with the national database? And what he was referring to was obviously CODIS. So we know based on the documents that Othram turned over the DNA for the SNP file for the IgG on December 10th. That was less than a month past the murders. Murders happened November 13th. And they had already gone through their whole spew, and they needed more work and more help, which is why the FBI kicked in and did their deal. But what that says is they had been working at it for some time. So that means that they had the DNA profile immediately. And so for all these people that believe that, the University of Idaho was upset because the semester was coming to a close and they needed to find just anybody, well, that would have been impossible because they already had an STR profile downloaded into CODIS well before the semester came to a close, almost immediately after the knife sheath was located. And so unless they went back in time and planted his DNA on the knife sheath, or they busted a Mission Impossible and went into a national database that is monitored by law enforcement agencies across the country and changed the DNA sequence so that it matches Brian Koberger's, it's impossible. It is.
Yeah, well, that's the, I had McDonough on the show just the other day and we were talking about it. And I said, well, maybe it was the defense would either be, it was planted or mishandled or something. But the fact of the matter is that single source DNA of Brian Koberger's was found on that knife sheath.
Yeah.
And then so that's kind of in the scheme of a pyramid, that's your bottom, right? That's going to hold up. That's going to hold up everything else. Then you're going to start putting, his locations and then him.
Which the defense is not arguing is not his DNA.
how can they? Like, if you think about that, think what is the number? I don't even remember, some quintuplet something.
5 octillion million, something like that.
Yeah, so like you're gonna have to go galaxies away to find another DNA, unless Koberger unless Koberger has an evil twin out there, which has somehow avoided. There are two Brian Kobergers walking around. I don't think that that's possible, but
They threw it out there once.
what's that?
The defense threw that out there once.
Of course, I mean
They
that's
said that
they don't have much.
they said that they didn't look into any other Brian Koberger relatives whose father was Michael Koberger, who may have been around the 1122 King Road residence on the night of November 13th. It's in a court document sometime in 2024. It's a long time ago, but we highlighted it on a show called Brian Koberger Has an Evil Twin. And so I thought it was hilarious that you brought that up, because that's exactly the title of that episode, was Brian Koberger's Evil Twin. And that's what they were mad at. They were saying that, well, law enforcement locked in onto Brian Koberger and they didn't investigate anybody else with Brian Koberger's DNA that may have been in that area, who was related by who was the son of Michael Koberger. It was insane. But the lengths that you would go to when you don't have a case.
Yeah, and I see, you see that a lot, and that they will, like, you saw people in the chat earlier, and I'm sure you've seen this too, where people go, why aren't they bringing up the blood, right? And I always go, okay, I hear what you're saying, but where are you going to go with that? And that's what the judge, that's the judge, but that's what the jury's going to want to hear, because they're going to want to hear when they say that this was planted, and they're going to go, by who would want to do this to Brian? Who would want to set him up for a quadruple homicide? They hate him so much that that's what they want to do. That somebody has a vendetta against him, and somehow they pressed his finger on a knife sheath that he just may or may not have happened to order off of Amazon and deliver to his house, which, by the way, is going to come into play at trial as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot to I said this the other day. It's a lot to overcome. And if he didn't leave that knife sheath there, he very well may still be on the loose.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Even if somebody would have pointed him out, which I would have had no doubt that somebody would eventually, based on his disturbing behaviors at WSU that got him fired as a TA. I mean, somebody would have pointed out, hey, this guy drives a White launcher. You might want to look at him. Eventually they would have seen him. However, I think a lot of evidence probably would have gone away by then. If this would have ended up a cold case, a lot of that footage of his vehicle being driven around would have been gone. And, you may have had a situation, especially the ones in Pullman. The ones in Moscow, maybe not, because they may have preserved that. So they would have always had that. But the ones in Pullman that showed him coming back at 5 o'clock in the morning, that showed him going directly and also leaving Pullman as well. Those, right, exactly. Those may have been lost. And if those were lost and there was no footage of him leaving, and that could corroborate with his cell phone pings, then, he could have said, I was just at home all day. I don't care what that says. The pings can be off by 27 miles. Should prove I'd left my home. Where's the footage I left my home? Mm-hmm. Well, he can't do that now because they caught him so soon. And so there's so much that may have been lost, that they may have come to the conclusion, like, yeah, this guy probably did it, but they probably wouldn't have had enough to arrest him.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been, but on top of all of this, is a case that now has eyewitness testimony. This case now has circumstantial evidence. This case has physical evidence. And so now we're talking about a huge hurdle for the defense and Ann Taylor. And what are the chances, Daniel, that he takes a plea deal?
I don't know. Part of me says that it's probably going to be the only. Yeah, I was going to say that's the only thing that saves his life, to be honest with you.
I think so. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, this guy's been eager to exonerate himself since the beginning. Motion after motion, trying to stall as much as possible. If he may go into it thinking like, hey, if I can spend the rest of my life here, or I can get on the death penalty. The death penalty is going to give him probably another 25 years of life. He'll be an older man, 25, maybe 35 years of life. Because I think the last person that was taken, whose life was taken in Boise, I think he was on the row for almost 2 decades, if not longer. And so it's not something that happens quite common in Idaho. I mean, if you're going to be on there that long, your life's over anyways. I mean, it's life without parole. I mean, I'd risk it. I mean, especially right now when you see what's going on in like other cases like Karen Reed.
They'll appeal, and they've already put it out there that he's autistic, which somehow exonerates him from knowing right from wrong, and that killing is bad.
He was a criminal justice student. I mean, he should know more than anyone else.
Very clever.
He's or law at least.
Yeah, he's not a dumb guy.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of things about him that are quirky and odd and all those things. And the funny thing is too, like, I don't even have a dog. Like, I don't have a dog in the fight. If I thought he was innocent, I would say so. I don't think he's innocent. Not just because of the Sheath, but there's a lot of other evidence against him.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you just start stacking these on, it's like when you take one stick, you can snap one stick very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Take like 20, 30 sticks. It's pretty hard to break, I mean, it's just, it's pretty layered here. And I think that they're in for a tough fight, but I thought that this was going to be, how else do you explain it? I mean, is there any other defense?
So the only defense they have, and I think this is what I'm going to be predicting that they're going to be going with, and this kind of goes along with their alternative suspect theory, is they've brought up unknown blood from an unknown male from 2 different sources in the house. Now, one of them's from a glove outside that was found a couple of weeks later, but it was within the perimeter. It was like a working man's glove. It wasn't like a nitro. I don't know. I don't know. I've heard it's not, but
I don't think it is.
But I know he found one as well.
Yeah, true. I love how everybody said too. They go, "Oh, you go to prison for stuff like that."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
McDonald's gonna do that, right?
And so then there was blood inside on a handrail. Now I had questioned, because of how descriptive they were on the outside DNA, that it was inside of a glove and that was outside of the house, why they weren't at all any descriptive as far as the location of the DNA inside the house. They just said there's blood, or there was DNA around the vicinity of the bodies or something of that nature. Well, we find out it's on a handrail, and I had told people before anything came out, I was like, it's going to be a speck of blood, and it's going to be on the handrail from the first floor to the second floor. It's not anywhere where the supposed suspect would have traveled. And so sure enough, it comes out a couple days later or 3 days later that the documents drop in, and it's a speck of blood on the first floor to the second floor handrail. And my thoughts are like, how long has it been there? It's a speck of blood. It's just a small amount. And there's nothing, there's not the eyewitnesses that saw what was going on, how things transpired with Xana and what Dylan saw as far as the suspect, is him leaving and heading towards the direction of the sliding glass door. Nobody puts him going down to the first floor. Now, what do we know about that area on that location that night? We know that a lot of people have come forward, neighbors saying that it was very quiet that night. It's very peaceful. The night before, however, there was a lot of parties in that area. Now, if you go back and you look at some of the photos that are taken of the house, and you can look through the windows and you can see the reminiscence of a party. Well, since it was quiet that night, that party wasn't from that night. That party was from the night before, or maybe even before that. Now, There was a beer pong table with a bunch of beer cans and beer bottles and red Solo cups. There was food. There was a bunch of things everywhere. I think it was estimated over 150 people traversed in and out of that house the night before the murders. And so, is it possible that somebody had a paper cut on their hand or snagged themselves on something on the handrail and left something behind? 100%. 100%. Now, is it possible the killer may have done it? Walking out, maybe. It's weird that it's only one person's. It's a small speck, and there's not any other blood DNA left behind as far as like when the injury occurred. So if this person would have gotten injured during the struggle with one of the victims, I would assume that if his skin broke and there was blood at any point, you'd probably also find it there and on the handrail. That's not the case. It's only there on the handrail. It's also not the same as the blood outside, so there's no connection there. Those are two different DNA sequences. So I know a lot of people get upset because at the time that Brian Koberger was arrested, law enforcement didn't investigate who that DNA belonged to. And I believe a big part of that is because of the party that was there the night before. Now, what do they know wasn't there the night before that the killer did touch? And that's the knife sheath. That's why they focus in on that piece of evidence and not the evidence on the not the evidence on the handrail, but not at that moment. The reason they do that is because of resources. There's only one FBI, only one author room that can, run a family tree, and there's a hell of a lot of law enforcement agencies that are asking for their help. And so they run one of them, the one that's most likely touched by the killer. And sure enough, they find Brian Koberger. You have to do an investigation. You have to figure out, could it have been him? Does he have an alibi? Was he out and about that night? Does his vehicle not have a front license plate at the time of the crime? Because we have a video of a vehicle without a front license plate. And every box this man begins to check. I mean, he matches also the vague description that Dylan put out. So at the end of the day, this case is sealed tighter than a Ziploc bag.
Yeah. Yeah. And there could be more DNA evidence that we don't know about. I mean, they don't have to release everything. And you sure bet that the defense isn't going to want to tell people about, other stuff that they have, because to get the probable cause affidavit, I mean, you only have to, what is it, like 51% or something like that, to get a judge to sign off on, and they threw the knife sheath button DNA in there because that was a big deal.
To be honest with you, if all they put on there was that, we had the Brian Koberger's name from, this place, from, I guess, the WSC officer that got his license plate. We were able to track him down via the citation they had, which they kind of did it this way. This is kind of the route they were going, but they added way too much. All they had to say was, all right, we went from there to we discovered his phone was off at the time, so we got a warrant for that, and we discovered that his phone turned off right before the crime, right after the crime. We went out and pulled a trash pull on, we couldn't locate him at his house, so we found him at his parents' house. We did a trash pull. Although we didn't collect his DNA, we collected his father's DNA. It was a familial match to the parent or the father of the person that left the DNA behind, which Brian Koberger is the only offspring of said person, a male offspring. And that's all you needed. You didn't need the rest of it, to be 110% honest with you.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I mean, even if they had submitted it and then the judge could have said, not enough, do it again, because they can do that. I mean, they could keep adding stuff, but I think that they have more evidence. I really
100%. 100%.
Think about what about his computer? I mean, they've got his computer. What did they find at his home in Pennsylvania? What did they find in his dorm? I mean, that we don't know much of anything, really. Very little. Like you said, this is pretty sealed up, and they have been fighting tooth and nail for these drips of, they've been all these motions to suppress, and finally the judge is like, I'm sick of this, dude. I'm done with it. Um, are you liking the new judge?
Oh yeah, dude, this guy's finally putting his foot down. You know, nothing
We're going
against
to
John.
trial. We're going to trial August.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so. You know, nothing against Judge John Judge. That's a tongue twister.
That's a
You know,
tough.
nothing against him, but it just kind of felt like he questioned his own authority as far as what he was capable of doing and not capable of his own power. And Ann Taylor has a way of saying things. And when it comes to Hitler, he's just been around the block a few more times, and he's stern with both sides. But he sees past all this BS. I mean, it's pretty obvious what happened. You know, I know a lot of people say, hey, you know, wait for all the evidence, this, that, and a third. And I get it. But I mean, you know, if I walk outside and I look up or I look around and I see that everything's wet and I see dark clouds leaving me, I don't need a weatherman to tell me it rained. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to see it.
There's no question about that. And another thing, you know, and I heard one of the prosecutors saying, you know, that, you know, he's trying to, you know, this whole Fourth Amendment, you know, the illegal search and seizure. When this is what you're arguing, like you said, when you're arguing autism, when you're arguing for suppression, that's not the look of a strong defense. It's just not. I've watched a lot of trials, and juries see through a lot of that. You know, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting trial, and I do think that there's going to be a lot more evidence coming out, and it could be DNA, it could be eyewitness testimony, it could, you know, we know very, very little of the evidence, and I'm curious to see what's on that computer. I want to hear about Bundy. I want to hear about his obsession with Bundy, because that's what I think. I think there's some of that there too, don't you?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot there. I mean, he studied under Kathleen Ramsland, who really focused a lot of her classes into Bundy. You know, I've said it before. You know, the place that he claims to have been at, his quote unquote alibi is the place where a suspected Bundy victim was found, and supposedly the very first, Joyce LePage. You know, I mentioned this a long time ago on my channel. I was saying, like, you know, and I got a lot of heat for it because a lot of people were telling me, oh, whoa, you know, Bundy didn't do that one. Bundy didn't do that one. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if Bundy did it or not. It's, did Brian Koberger think Bundy did it? Was Brian Koberger aware of the unsolved murder incident itself? And, you know, there's another unsolved crime involving a sorority home. And you're claiming to be in the one location where some believe that Ted Bundy got his start. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I don't know how, you know, I don't think that could really fit into the trial, but I do think that it is interesting, to say the least. I mean, this is such a fascinating case in the fact of that, like, first of all, fascinating in the worst way, by the way, because of these four young people that were just brutally killed. You know, I talk about the K-bar knife. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you've handled one before. They're wicked, dude. They are hot butter, knife through hot butter.
You know, and the thing is, the one thing that I find like insane is that some people would say, well, you know, Ethan was bigger than Brian, so how did he not beat him up? And I'm like, dude, Brian had a 7-inch blade in his hand.
You take one poke from that, it's you start worrying about where you're leaking from.
Yeah, I mean that evens the size and makes it even worse. I mean, it don't matter how big you are, you're still human. You know what I mean? You still got vital organs, and a 7-inch knife is going to hit you in some of those. Don't matter how big you are. It's going to hit some stuff.
Tony Mathis here says, I bet there's some twisted stuff on his hard drive. I would not be. Look, if he's the guy, and I think he is, there's twisted stuff on a lot of people's hard drives, but imagine.
He wants it thrown out.
Of course he does. He wants everything thrown. He wants the case to go away. There's not one thing that they agree to to let in. There's now the only thing that they seemingly are agreeing to is, yeah, that's his DNA, but it was planted by the real killer. I would think that you're just, this is going to be a big problem for the defense. There are a lot of people convinced that he's innocent. There really are. And I know that there's kind of a subset of people that feel that way about most cases. And I don't have a problem with it. It's just that they want you to believe a minuscule little thing that seemingly means nothing, but they ignore the big facts. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, because I've had, so you know how I ran down everything, the car, front license plate, DNA, whole 9 yards. To me, all that's a little bit too coincidental. However, I'll talk to a pro burger and they'll tell me, and I've had literally this one guy tell me, he's like, that's not too much of a coincidence for me, but the fact that there was a white Elantra that was crashed in Eugene, Oregon, right? And when they finally got to that white Elantra, it came back to some random person in Colorado.
I remember
And then at one point, the victim's house, it somebody owned it, and they lived at one point in another part of Colorado. But because both of them were from the same state, completely separate people in completely different parts of Colorado, that was too much of a coincidence. They had something to do with it. It was a money scheme. It was a money scheme. And the one thing that I find hard to believe is, how do you keep saying it's a money scheme when there's no money being made, except for Brian Koberger's defense team?
Yeah. Right. No, I agree with you on that. But that's just, I mean, the guy drives an Elantra, man, with no front license plate. You think that they put that out there on accident? Like, you remember when they were like, oh, we're looking for this kind of car. I think that they knew.
Well, they didn't add that into it. They just kind of put out some stock photos of an Elantra. I know a lot of people are going to be saying, well, they changed it after they got Brian Koberger's name. Well, there's some documents that say that on November 26th, that no, that's when they opened it up from a 2011-13 to a 2011 and 2016 Elantra.
Yeah.
And which was before the Bolo, and which is weird that in the Bolo, they only put 2011 to 13. It is what it is. But the thing that kind of saves the prosecution's rear end here is the fact that they were looking for a vehicle matching one that is similar to a 2011 to 13 Elantra. And the reason we know that they were looking for vehicles that were similar to is because Brian Koberger's vehicle was put on a list of vehicles to look into because it was similar enough to an 11 to 13 Elantra. And it was entered on that list before Brian Koberger's name was ever put on, was given to Detective Payne on December 19th. And so big difference there. So you can't say it's because, they arrested Brian Koberger, so they changed it. No, they changed it before, and they can prove that they were looking at models that year because the fact that they documented that they had it before they had Brian Koberger's name. So you can prove those points there.
Right. And as Miss Tammy says here, law enforcement wanted anyone with that type of vehicle to come forward. He didn't come forward. And I'm guessing that he had probably heard of the crimes, right? I mean, it's pretty safe to assume, right? If he was, I wouldn't be surprised if then this is just me thinking out loud, but I wouldn't be surprised if a trial, like it's going to be one of those things where he searched like updates. He wanted updates on the case, and so, anyway, well, no, I appreciate you coming up, and I think we kicked it around, and I really do thank you, and the audience does too. But
thank you guys. I appreciate you letting me join and explain a couple of the things that I had noticed since I had the video for a little bit of extended period of time. I know a lot of people ask me why I didn't release it. The main reason why I didn't release it until now is because I was waiting for it to go public. And the reason why I did that is because I do speak with some of the family members, but I do not speak with all family members of the victims here. And so I didn't want to I knew it was going to go out and it was going to be public, and there was nothing that was going to stop that from being out there. But I didn't want to let it out there before I could confirm it being okay with some of the other victims' family members who I don't speak with. So
Right.
that's the reason why I know a lot of that's been a hot take, because they've been aware that I've been aware of the 911 call and that I've had it for about 4 or 5 days now, and that why I didn't release it. I got a lot of heat, like, oh, it must be fake, or oh, it must be this, it must be that, and no, it's the right thing.
Of course, you're gonna get heat no matter what, dude. I mean,
You know it.
Have an opinion one way or the other. It doesn't matter. You're gonna get
Yeah.
heat. But you do a great job covering this. Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon. And get well. You know, keep healing, and I hope you're feeling better from that. I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. How's the PTSD?
It's a lot better. I got, but I'm on some medication. My doctor gave it to me, so
I understand. Sure.
yeah, it's helped out tremendously. Needless to say.
Terrible. All right, man. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You too, buddy. Take it easy. Have a good night.
Take care. And there's Daniel from Drunk Turkey Show. Just really, really nice guy. I like him a lot. And this isn't the first time that we've done something together, and this wasn't even planned, but he's a good dude, and I've been on his show. He's been on mine before, so I appreciate it very much. And let me see. Let me thank you guys for the new members. Let's see. Cool lady. He is very logical. Yeah, he's not dumb at all. Debbie, thank you for that as well. You know what Daniel told me was that when he was just basically just asking the dog to let him go. He's like, "You're gonna kill me. Just please let me go." And the dog let him go. Just, what's up? 22 months. Good to see you, buddy. Thank you. And D, appreciate it as well. All right, guys. Well, there we go. Thank you so much for being here. I have enjoyed it, and catch you next time. Yeah. Yes, there is.